Hey guys, a few weeks ago, Danielle and Bradbery released her first album in over 6 years, Danielle.
I get sick, he gets better, fall apart, holding him together.
I was super excited for the release, but to be honest, I was a little bit disappointed. The whole album is only 7 tracks in 22 minutes. In the world of super albums with 30 plus tracks each to maximize streaming numbers, it's refreshing to see a full project that's short and concise, but still works well. The problem I have is she cut a few singles that were some of my favorites leading up to the album, and I think they would have fit really well with the other themes of the album anyway. So I'm going to take it upon myself to rebuild the album, fishing back in her discography to flesh it out a bit. Real quick, the main rule I'm using is I have to keep the main Danielle album intact and maintain the themes. I say that's a rule, but I really did like the album, so I would have done it this way regardless. The story and themes are what got me excited about this album in the first place, and the album is pretty good on its own. Aside from that, the only other rule is all these songs have to be Danielle's. No collaborations or features, it's about her. That being said, as much as I do love the first name basis idea of the album, I will be proposing a new name, but we'll get to that later in the video. For now, on to the album.
Never thought that days could walk with me. Swear before you.
It took me a few listens, but I've grown to really like Wake Me Up as the album opener. The album itself explores the range from a struggling relationship to a breakup and then the healing that follows. Wake Me Up serves as a starting point where the relationship is supposed to be at its strongest before things start to fall apart. But whether it's a subtlety in the writing or Danielle's incredible delivery, you already get the sense that something's not quite right. All the callbacks to living in her dreams, followed by the refrain Wake Me Up, reflecting just how delusional she's become about their relationship. This is one of my less confident placements because Never Have I Ever implies that the relationship is real in a way that it's never been before. She very distinctly never says she's in love now, just that she's never been in love before now. But I also think that similar to Wake Me Up, that unwillingness to call it love suggests that deep down something isn't right. And once again, that feeling of delusion has always stuck out to me as the real story behind Never Have I Ever. Similar to Wake Me Up, on the surface, Windows is a simple love song, playing on the line, eyes are windows to the soul. But again, there's a bit of tension built into the lyrics and the delivery, with themes of secrecy and mistrust. As a song, I'm not the biggest fan of Windows because it feels more like a club beat than a meaningful lyric, but it does explore the themes of the album well, and I think it's a good fit for the opening section.
You always lie to me, and you lie down with me.
This is a shift from denial to the realization that the relationship isn't going to work. More than any other, I was blown away that Monster wasn't included on the record because it seems to fit the theme so well. It's all about Danielle's realization that the guy she's with is the source for her stress, not a safe place to run from it. And sure, the line, the monster ain't under the bed cause he's in it with me, is a bit cheesy, but the more I come back to it, the more I love it, and the more I think it deserves a place in this album.
I'm not in love with you.
I don't have a great justification for including the song other than I just love it. Potential is about realizing you love a person for who they might become rather than who they actually are. And as much as we all hope to have a positive impact on the people we love, you also have to be willing to meet them where they're at, or else the relationship will always be strained. Realistically, it wouldn't make sense for the studio to re-release this album 7 years later, but this is my video and I just want to make the best album possible.
Thought it'd be rainbows and butterflies.
Easily my favorite from the album, Broken Boy represents a defeated acceptance. It's about recognizing that they're both broken in their own ways, but maybe their broken parts can fit together. It reminds me of a quote from John Green's book, Turtles All the Way Down. Our hearts were broken in the same places. That's something like love, but maybe not quite the thing itself. In some cases, feeling understood by someone at your lowest point can form a really deep connection. But by the nature of this type of connection, the relationship can only grow stronger as it becomes less healthy for everyone involved. And despite the short-term benefits, it can often leave both parties worse off than they originally started. You Could is a last-ditch effort prayer asking God to help save their relationship. She's really candid, opening up about all the things she knows she can't change, but maybe God can. In a lot of ways, it's a look back at a song like Potential, and recognizing the absurdity of trying to change him into a man she could love. But she isn't quite ready to give up yet, still hoping God can do what she couldn't. I love the vulnerability she shows, and I can absolutely see this becoming a favorite of mine for years to come.
Are you gonna save yourself when I'm going down? 'Cause when I'm about to black out.
Going back to her discography, Blackout isn't one that really stuck with me when I listened in the past, but the context of this album brings a whole nother side to the song. It's sort of a pre-breakup warning about how she's at the end of her rope, and at this point it wouldn't take much to push her over the edge. The metaphors in the song are super interesting, alluding to boxing, getting drunk, and the breakup at the core of it. And each line seems to bring 2 or 3 of these themes together, making it both a high-energy jam and a weirdly deep lyric. I see this as the tipping point of the album, where she's done trying to save it and leaning into the aftermath of the breakup.
You were my human diary.
Like Potential, this is here because it's by far my favorite Danielle Bradbery song. And because I'm cheating and pulling this from an earlier album, I'm also going to use this as the title track. I've talked about Human Diary on the channel before, but I will continue to unapologetically every chance I get. It's about how the biggest loss in the breakup is losing your best friend and the person you've trusted for so long. There are a lot of great breakup songs in country music, but for whatever reason, Human Diary just does the best job portraying the true feeling of heartbreak. But it also explains why, and that understanding is incredibly empowering in the emotional healing process. I also think Human Diary is a great name for this album in particular because it's a really vulnerable look into the emotions around this breakup. And as much as I like Danielle and the first name basis idea for the title, I think I like Human Diary as the title track even better.
There's a special place in hell.
These few songs following the breakup have a really interesting connection with the 5 stages of grief. If you're not familiar, they are in order: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Human Diary is Danielle longing for the parts of the person that she loved, and in a bit of denial, wishing she could have that part of him back. Meanwhile, A Special Place is a true embodiment of Danielle's anger after the breakup. The whole point is Danielle describing the terrible hell he'll go to for the way he treated her, in a play on the idea that there's a special place in hell for all the worst people. I actually love this song, but from a lyrical perspective, it's kind of bland, so I don't have a ton to say about it, but it fits the theme of the album well, and Danielle's delivery is great, so I think it definitely deserves a spot.
Stop dragging your boots up onto my porch, kicking butt off your
Stop Dragging Your Boots is a surprising bridge between the desperate denial of Human Diary and the visceral anger of A Special Place. From a first pass of the lyrics, it's abundantly clear she's angrily telling him off. But if you look closer, she's actually giving him more of a choice. She's definitely done with his current behavior, but isn't quite ready to break it off. She always has a line here or there, leaving the door open for him to change and come back, with the culmination of the chorus being the ultimatum: either love me or not. The core theme is still about telling him to get lost, but I love how the context of the album brings out this bargaining theme, of always leaving the option open if he's willing to change.
She's all dressed in white, I'm all dressed in black.
Wedding or a Funeral is very intentionally a low point of the album as she watches the man she loves get married to someone else. Comparing her sadness at a wedding to someone grieving at a funeral is a bit on the nose, but it's really well executed. And it's incredibly effective at representing the 4th stage of grief, depression. Unlike the others, there's very little denial, bargaining, or anger. She doesn't try to disrupt the ceremony or even leave. She's just wallowing in the pain and sadness she feels at the death of any chance they had at being together, and at the irony that their best day is her worst.
Ain't it funny they come running when there's money?
Both in the original and in my version, Real Ones is the first step into acceptance for Danielle. There's still some bitterness and resentment in her lyrics and her tone, but her anger is more of a barrier, preventing people from taking advantage of her. And more importantly, she's leaning into the people that have been there for her through thick and thin. Because in the end, leaning on the real ones who will love you no matter what is the best way to get through the hard times.
What will I talk about? What will I drink about?
Like Monster, I was surprised this song wasn't on the album because it just fits the theme so well. This was the song that got me so excited about this project, and it's still one of my favorites. I've reviewed the song on its own, but the idea is coming to the realization that she's built her identity around missing this other person. So even as she heals and moves on, she still has to find out who she is in the process. There are so many great lines, but the first verse just breaks me every time. My tears are a reminder that someone out there used to love me. Each line goes to show just how hard a breakup can be to get over sometimes, and just how easy it can be to lose yourself in that sorrow.
No one could put out my fire.
At first, Younger and Wiser felt a bit forced for this album. It's a great song about growing up and not feeling that wisdom with age that everyone talks about, but it doesn't have an obvious place on an album otherwise focused around a breakup. But that being said, Following the Day That I'm Over You is a period of reflection and self-discovery, which is exactly what Younger and Wiser represents. Because in the end, the real takeaway is that she has recognized this about herself, and that realization will help her in the future. Okay, this one's definitely cheating, but in a perfect world, I would have her re-record and release a Danielle's version of this song. My dream would be for a moment like Fast Car by Luke Combs, where Danielle's version brings new life to the song and maybe even get Sarah Evans to duet it, because not only does it fit the themes at this point of the album so well, but it was also one of the songs that catapulted Danielle into superstardom on The Voice. And to be honest, I love when artists sneak little covers like this into their album, even if it is a little bit of fan service.
Are they getting married? Are they getting jaded?
Girls in My Hometown is a great song thinking about what her friends from back home are up to now. But more importantly, in the context of the album, it's not about Danielle or her relationship at all. Because for a lot of people, the grief of going through a breakup drives us further into ourselves and our grief, spiraling inwards, making it hard to think of anything else going on outside. So often the greatest signs of growth and healing is being able to take a step back and take a moment to think about her friends and family that she hasn't seen in a while. And despite essentially none of the breakup themes that are present in the rest of the album, I think that drives home the song's purpose in the album even more.
I've been called helpful, extra psycho, that's why you
Culminating the original album is the true moving on song, That's Why You Love Me. Similar to Wake Me Up, I've really come around in the song and its thematic place in the album. In some ways, it's almost cyclical as she's back in a relationship by the end of it. But the difference, especially compared to the first few albums, is she isn't overly positive or fake. She may be a little self-deprecating, but importantly, she's not apologetic. Instead, she's leading to who she is and letting go of the person everyone else wants her to be. And it doesn't matter what they say or what names they call her because she knows who she is. And she'll find someone who loves her not in spite of her perceived flaws, but because of them. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my ideas for the album, I've compiled a playlist of my perfect version. I'd love if you gave that a listen and let me know how you would do it differently. Also, what do you think of my name idea? Let me know what you would call the album down in the comments. If you made it this far and enjoy the video, I really appreciate it if you like the video and subscribed. Again, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.